The South Shore Citizens Club was started in 1942. Both my mother and father were very, very instrumental in the formation of the club. There were a whole bunch of people from the South Shore, not just from Hingham, but from Weymouth and Holbrook and Randolph, who joined this club. And those are the people that really helped develop it. There were some who were, natural leaders, and then there were some people who were, kind of bossy, like my father and myself. And, we liked to be in the limelight and all of that. But it took a lot of people. The person who I think started the club was Miss Mabel Diggs, who was a woman that probably was maybe 5 feet tall but very dynamic. And it was kind of her idea that there should be some place for the sailors and Marines who were here to socialize. The original South Shore Citizens Club was started primarily to act as a comfort spot for the black sailors who were in Hingham. They had no areas of recreation, neither did they have anywhere that they could go and socialize. And so the original concept was to provide a social outlet for those black sailors. My father didn't really come into the picture until probably the 50s, 60s, and 70s, when all of the base had closed and the club had grown, and they needed an outlet, and there was that expression of change that was coming to not only Hingham but to the whole South Shore, to Boston. We had the problems with the schools in Boston, and there was also a housing problem. There was no adequate housing, or it was very hard for blacks to get housing in the suburbs. And so that's how they really started. And then it became a civic organization, and its primary function was to provide scholarships for black students on the South Shore. We were lucky because we were always involved. My father had a men's choir, a men's chorus, and it was comprised of both black and white participants. And each year the South Shore Citizens Club used to have an annual banquet, and it was held at either hotel or Valleys. I can remember a few years that we had it at Valleys. It used to be over in Braintree, but some area where there was a large enough venue to have some 200 people. And it was usually on a Sunday morning, and we would have guest speakers. My father's group would sing, and it was an enlightening time of life, because in those days you didn't see that. You didn't see people mingling together, enjoying themselves together. The breakfasts were packed, and it showed that people could get along, could be civil, and could, actually do things that helped both white and black. So yeah, he was very instrumental. He was the president of the club for a number of years, and my brother and I were both very, very lucky to have been able to participate in those functions, as well as when, after I moved back to Hingham, we joined the club for a very short time, after I was married, and we did the same thing. We were involved in the development of scholarships and social ideas for the community and for the South Shore. So I'm proud that there were people like my father, who was instrumental, like my mother, who was instrumental, like Mrs. Diggs, like the Jewels, like the Fields, like the Hobsons, that had social conscience and looked forward as far as where life was going to go for them, their children, their children's children, and now their children's children's children.